Is it recording?
Yes.
All right. Thank you everybody for coming. My name is BSwift, and I'm going to be talking about the No Child Left Behind law and the TAKS testing. Now, how many of you study for a test a few days in advance before your test? Everybody here has taken at least a test.
Except James.
Well, what if you had to study your entire life leading up to this test for it? How would you ever have? Who's ever done that? Actually, good 3, 4 of you have. And that's called the TAKS test. Right now, schools provide an education every day. Schools provide the best education for every student possible. Unfortunately, some students have different issues, different learning habits, and it's hard to consider all of them. But in regards to the education, we've got to do our best to meet all of them. Unfortunately, with the TAKS testing, Texas is kind of falling a little short. Today we'll be speaking about what the Child No Left Behind is, what TAKS testing is, what kind of issues might we come into, and how can we fix this. Some of my places that I found this was greatschools.com, the Federal Education Budget Program, the Houston Chronicle, the For You Houston News, and some personal issues myself. Now, No Child Left Behind Law, NCLB, is a new law enacted to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. This new one was enacted in 2003. It said that we had to employ a test, a mandatory test, along with accountability. Accountability can be anything from providing test scores, teachers preparing for these tests, etc., etc. Now, this test doesn't necessarily benefit everybody. It doesn't benefit everybody at all times because we're testing for every subject. Some grades have to test for just reading, writing, and math. Other grades have to test for science, reading, and math. And some exit levels, you have to take all 4 tests. Like I said, this test isn't necessarily fully efficient because we don't consider these certain groups. Some students struggle, and that's just in everyday life with everything that we do. For me personally, I was ahead 2 grades in math, but I was still tested at the grade level I was. They couldn't do anything about it because it had to be a mandatory test. And it was hard for me because I was reading or doing math at 2 grades above what I was testing at, and that's hard to do going from 8th grade math to 6th grade math, or 12th grade algebra or calculus to 8th grade geometry. It's difficult. Well, then you see kids like the student in Houston who couldn't graduate because she couldn't pass this test, just one part of the test. She was able to pass all of her classes, all of the tests she took for her classes, and was actually good to graduate. But the test, she couldn't pass it, and they wouldn't let her graduate. They said, we could give you a certificate, but they couldn't let her graduate. There's even a report from the Houston Chronicle that some students have actually left school to avoid taking this test. Unfortunately, it stated that more than 16,800 students have left public school to go to being homeschooled. And 8,400 more left to go to private school. Some have even moved entirely to a whole other state just to avoid this because they can't pass it. And that just comes in regards to the fact that the testing, it covers everything that you've learned from 1st grade to 12th grade. And it covers all of that. Not just the little bits that you learned in 12th grade, but all 12 years. And on top of that, it's tested early. So you don't have the chance to get that couple more months to learn. You're tested in the early spring, not the summer when you graduate. That creates issues. So we need to make this test better. We need to accommodate for all these students because there's a lot of them. Now, here's some other options that we can do. The test goes over so much information. Well, let's make the test go over that year that they're studying, that year that they've done it, because obviously they've tested before, so we need a test for that year that they're learning. For instance, Colorado, they have their state testing, but they don't require you to pass. If we can we still need the test. That test is going to show us what we know. But if we can get the test results and show that we can accommodate for these students the next year, we can give them an additive class. We can fix their schedule. That's something that they're doing, but they're not letting them pass, which creates an issue because they've done all of that classwork and they've already passed it, but they're behind a whole grade, which fluctuates with the whole graduation procedure and when you graduate. So test, yes. If you fail, let's fix your schedule so that you can continue to learn and be at the point that you need to be when you graduate. Not everything works the way we want to, so we need to get education a little bit better. So, take the test to show what you've learned. Make the next year better. Children are our future. We want education, we need education. But there's no need to discourage them. They're our future.